Okay, we begin a new sefer of Chumash, Sefer Vayikra, and we have a great announcement to make that Sefer Rabi Yakob, Rabi Yakob has been published in English by Art Scroll. Has come out this week, so get your copy. Hopefully, we'll have a link here that you'll be able to purchase that. A beautiful sefer. One day, hopefully, we'll be able to give Shurim in that too. But for now, we begin Sefer Vayikra. Okay. So, Korbanos. We're not going to talk about the side of Korbanos here, the secrets of Korbanos, but reading the parshiot, sometimes you get a little chalishas hadas. You feel bad. You're like, hey, we can't do any of this. I can't bring a carbon mincha nowadays. And that's what we're going to discuss today. V'nefesh kisakir of carbon mincha Hashem. When a nefesh would want to bring a carbon mincha for Hashem, so he'd bring it out of soilus. Yeah, carbon, it'd be fine flour. But Yatzak Allah Shemen pours oil on it. V'nasan Allah Levina, and you add some frankincense. And then you bring it to Bnei Aaron, Kaihanim, the Kamatz Misham Malakum, so they take a handful misalta from that flour and from that oil. And that the frankincense, Vayikra Kainis Askarasam Mizbecha, the Kain burns it, and it becomes an Ishe Reach Nichayach Lashem. And the V'hanisaris Mina Mincha, the rest of that Mincha goes to Aaron and his sons. Kodesh Kadashim Me'ishe Hashem. Gewalt. What do I do with that? I can't do that nowadays. So Mert Hashem will be Zeichet out of the Beis Hamikdash again, and we'll bring Korbanos and carbon Menachas. But Rabi Yakob teaches us that a carbon Mincha we can find even nowadays. Through Tzedakah, through Tefillah, and through Torah, you're actually able to bring a carbon mincha. You got to watch this. Let's begin with a general introduction to tzedakah. Chazal tell us in Baba Basra, V'amar Rabbi Yitzchak kol hanosim pruta la'ani. Anybody gives a pruta is not a lot of money. You give a pruta to an ani, mizbarech b'sheish brachas. You get 6 blessings. V'hamefaisei b'dvarim. But if you can make that ani feel good, Mizbarech ba'achas acha esrei brachas. Then you get 11 brachas. So in addition to giving money, if you can make the person feel good, that's even worth more. The Yeshaya Navi tells us, V'safek l'rav, what should you give a hungry person? So you should give him bread, shouldn't you? The pasuk says, nafshecha. In addition, give him your soul. Let him feel that you feel for him, your compassion. That's for tzedakah. Now, when we give tzedakah, tzedakah is awesome. It's not like stam. Stam chesed in the Gemara, in Chazal, is referring to tzedakah. What's amazing about tzedakah? You see, one of the names for the Shechina is tzedek. Now, tzedek stands for tzedek tirdaif. That's justice. That could be harsh. I remember being at a sentencing once, and after all the nice things said about the guy, I thought, we'd get off. Nope, there's tzedek, there's justice, and time will be served. But through tzedakah, you're able to turn tzedek into charity. You're able to sweeten the judgment and make it better. Tzedakah comes. Tzedakah is kindness. It's chesed. So you can turn your tzedek in tzedakah. That happens through giving charity, and that's what tzedakah accomplishes. One more word of intro. The Zohar teaches us that just like by Korbanos, when you would bring a carbon, so that would bring down a shefa from above. The Zohar teaches the command of it tzedakah in miskena. Anybody who gives tzedakah, does tzedakah with a poor person. Azke hahi tzedakah la'ela v'sata. That tzedakah goes up and causes some effects in Shemaim, and then we get the repercussions, the good. We get the influence. The shefa comes down to us. That's what tzedakah does, just like Korbanos. Zohar teaches us another thing is that when you do a mitzvah, it first goes up to Shemayim, but when it goes up, the angels, the Melachim want to say, 1 second, we got to check this thing out first. Is this fitting to go up to Shemayim and to be able to cause such an amazing effect? and when it does, then the malachim bring it back down. Okay, with those introductions, let's take a look at the carbon mincha. V'nefesh ki zakrav carbon mincha lashem. So a nefesh wants to bring a carbon mincha. Mincha is a present. We use that word as a present. You want to bring a mincha. So the nefesh represents the gematria 430, which is the same as elikim, the same elikim which denotes justice, din, which is 86. 5 times that we discussed previously, that 5 by the para aduma, para, the hay, the din gets its, the dinim in the world come from the 5 letters of the mansipach. So real strict justice is elikim times 5 is 430. That's a nefesh. And that can be turned lashem. You're bringing a mincha through giving tzedakah. You turn that lashem. What is lashem? Lashem is chesed. So you're taking strict justice, and somehow by giving tzedakah, that turns lashem. The pasuk tells us, "V'haya masa tzedakah shalom." The act of tzedakah would cause peace. We could read that a little differently. V'haya are the same letters as Havaya, Hashem's name, Yud Kei Vav Kei. The maisa of tzedakah, by giving charity, then you bring shalom, you bring peace, completion to the Shem Havaya. The Shem Havaya, which is not always complete, becomes completed through a yichud of kutshabrucha ushchinte, happens through tzedakah. So tzedakah is the mincha that we're giving that's going to turn the nefesh lashem. That's going to turn strict justice into chesed. That'll turn the mice of tzedakah, brings shalom to the Shem Havaya. What kind of tzedakah should you give? So the pasuk tells us it must be soilus. If you're giving tzedakah to HaKadosh Baruch Hu, make sure that it is fitting. Like you would bring a carbon, the pasuk says, "Hakriveu na l'tachasecha." Are you going to bring this to a governor? That's talking about a carbon. And when you're giving tzedakah, make sure you're giving tzedakah, not, I'm giving tzedakah to this guy. I'll give him a crumpled up bill. You got to make sure it's fine. It's proper. It's good money. Salus. You want to make sure that the coin, the money you're giving, is easily transferable. But more than that, more than the money you give, vayatzak oleh shemen. You got to pour shemen on this mincha. What does shemen mean? David HaMelech says he's referring to raku devarov mishemen. His words were more soothing than oil. So we see shemen is used as a reference to soothing words, and words can be more soothing than oil. So when you give your tzedakah, make sure vayatzak oleh shemen. You pour lots of oil, that the money you're giving should also come with words that are soothing. That's the proper way to give tzedakah, but that's not enough. V'nasan aleha levayna. You got to put levayna. Levayna you see already. In levayna, the word lave. Your heart's got to be in there. It's got to be real. You want to give this guy. You're not just saying him words. It's not misafa l'chutz. It's not superficial. But you feel for the guy. That's levayna. Levayna is gematria 87, and 87 is ani Hashem, ani Avaya. Because anytime we find by different mitzvahs in the Torah that it's dependent on what you're thinking, like when you ask an evet to do something for you, well, if you mean it because you want it, that's great. If you're doing it to just, to make him work for no reason, that's not right. There the pasuk says, Ani Hashem. Ani Hashem, that's Beichel Levav, is I know what's going inside your mind. So Levayna is Gmatria Ani Hashem, because it's Levayna, the lave. How are you giving that money? Is it begrudgingly? Is it for covet? Is it for out of arrogance? No, Levayna, you do it with your heart. So you're giving silas, fine flour, giving good, you're giving cash, you're giving good money. And you're giving words of enthusiasm and chizik. And your lave is there. That's kavaldik. So the silas, you know what happens? Your silas turns into malchus. The flour you're giving, that's equals malchus. Malchus is another name for shechina, for this world that we live in, the Ol Malchus Shemayim, which we're looking to connect to. That's the shechina. The shemen, you add shemen to it means you're giving it well. That's b'gematria hashchina. So that means that our tzedakah has the ability to affect the Shechina, to be able to affect Malchus Shemayim. But that's only if it can make it through the Malachim. But if you do it with Silas, you're giving good money, and you're giving it with Shemen, with good words, and you're giving it with Levina, with your heart, then Vevi el b'nei Aaron HaKehanim, then you're going to bring that to Aaron. That's a reference to what the Zohar taught us, that when you do a mitzvah, it has got to pass through the Malachim. And the Malachim check, hey, what kind of an act is this? And when you do it properly, then the kamatz misham malay kumtzai, misalta, umishmana, al kol levaina sa. The kahanim, the malachim are going to take a handful of that. What's that handful? That's the hay that we added through tzedakah. We added a hay to the tzedek. We somehow caused an aliyah to the shechina in this world. That's the kaimitz. That's the handful, the hay, the 5 fingers that we're adding. And that goes on, Viktira Kohen as Askrasa HaMizbecha. The Kohen in Shemayim that works the Mizbeach in Shemayim is Michal. Michal takes that, and he takes an Askarasa. Askarasa is Askaras hay. That mention of the hay of tzedakah that you've affected by giving tzedakah, and he puts that on the Mizbeach. And where does that go? That's an Ishe Reach Nichayach Lashem that goes up through the worlds of Asiya, Yitzira, Bria, and Atzilus, all the way up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu Alein. That Maisa of tzedakah you give with a smile and with your heart goes up to the world of Atzilus. It goes up to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. But it doesn't end there. Then it comes back down to us. That chef that creates a Gavaldiga Shefa, HaKadosh Baruch Hu giving to us back to the world. V'aniseris min ha-mincha. That which is extra, that comes back down as Kodesh Kadashim Me'ishe Hashem. Azgehi, the Zohar taught us that tzedakah goes up and that comes back down to influence us, to give us shefa, to give us great things. That's what happens when you do tzedakah. What an amazing thing. We don't have Korbanos that were able to affect us, but we can give tzedakah. Not only through tzedakah, says Rabi Yakob. Let's look at another carbon. Another mincha we bring is a minchas marcheshes. You can bring marcheshes. Marcheshes has to do with tefillah. The gematria of marcheshes is 948, the same as tefillahs kel, prayer to Hashem, 948. A mincha of marcheshes, it's also a lashon of rachash libi, the whisperings when you're davening, the whisperings of tefillah. And then you say, Rabbi Yaakov says the same drasha, it has to got to be with soilus and shemen, it's got to be done properly. And then that goes up and makes an effect, and that's an isherech nichayach l'Hashem, and then that comes back down for us as well. That's through tefillah, and then it comes through learning as well. The imtakar of minchas bikurim. The oldest thing in the world that predated the world was the Torah. So if we talk about bikurim, the first of anything is Torah, and learning Torah does the same thing. It's koli be'esh, it's geras, it's lashon of girsa. And it's the fire of Torah, and that also is you give shemen on it, and you put levina on it, you do it with all your heart, and that's also brought up into Shemayim, and that comes back down as an isherech nechayach Hashem. So, Rabbi Yaakov, even though we don't have a Beis Hamikdash, we don't have a Mishkan, and we can't bring Korbanos, but we're able to daven, and we're able to learn, and we're able to give tzedakah. And if we do that with Silas, with Shemen and Levina, we do it with pure intentions and a pure heart, then that will bring an Isherech Nechayach Lashem. That'll bring great nachas to the Rebbeinu Shalom.